So I welcome you all so heartily to the first Second Tuesday webinar of 2022. And for those of you who participated last year, these were monthly offerings, and that was great during 2021, and I needed to pare back a little bit. So these are bi-monthly, that is every other month offerings. You can kind of make note of it. It's the even numbered months, but not including December of this year. I'm usually on writing sabbatical for the month of December. So I am coming to you, I'm Jennifer Wilhoit. I'm coming to you from the land of the Suquamish tribe, the Suquamish people who are expert salmon fishers and canoe builders and cedar basket weavers. And this land on which I live is also, I have a window here, so I look out at my friends in the yard and see that there are other local inhabitants who have been here for time immemorial, like Douglas firs and many, many kinds of ferns and red alder and western hemlock and western red cedar. Those are some of the trees. We have all kinds of flying beings who love this land as well, crawling beings, swimming beings. So we are surrounded here by a natural bounty that is unspeakably beautiful. And I have to watch myself sometimes when I'm in these public forums, because I recognize that not everybody lives in a place that they love the natural history of, or might not be very connected with it, or wish they were someplace else, or maybe dearly love the place where you live. So I want to welcome all of those perspectives. I happen to feel chosen by this place, and have been called here for decades. I'm a spiritual ecologist. If you want to know more about that, I could chat your ear off some other time. That's not the topic for today. I've been researching for a long time, writing for a long time. I have a small endeavor called Teal Arbor Stories, which is a therapeutic, creative, nature-based practice where I serve people in many varieties of ways from many different parts of the world and from very different fields of work. I'm also a longtime hospice volunteer, and somehow that seems to seep into just about everything I do. And I know we actually have other hospice folks, hospice trained folks on this call. And I just feel like that's a body of work that informs so much of what I do on a daily basis, as well as professionally. So if that slips in somehow to today's topic or any other topics in the future, just bear with me. And these Second Tuesday webinars, I just started them last year in the weird COVID time that we are still in, as a way to sort of offer a little bit of something, and then to be able to receive back from you your own experiences, ideas, thoughts, questions, debates, whatever comes up for you in the course of the first half hour. And we will do those things, deal with those things in the second half hour. Again, I'm only recording the first half of this. So once I turn the recording off, if some of you are shy, feel free to pop back on with your videos and or chime in with your ideas. So today's topic is 100 days. What is that? Who cares? And why am I bringing this up? I'm bringing it up because it's really on my mind, because in exactly 5 days, I'm looking down at my wall calendar, in exactly 5 days, I'm going to be starting again for the second time, maybe the third time, and I'll explain that in a minute. What's called a 100-day creative challenge, or the 100-day project. And it's something internationally known for, if any of you got my newsletter, I apologize for the repetition, but it's basically a creativity challenge to create something every day for 100 days in a row, which might sound daunting or might sound really simple. And let me tell you, I was all over the map with it last year. I sort of, so I'll talk a little bit about my process with that last year, what came of that, some other projects that emerged. And also I'm sharing this topic because starting next week for 4 weeks, I'll be offering a weekly 1 hour around lunchtime kind of paid event that is intended to support people who might want to try a creative challenge this year, kind of in sync in real time with the other challenge that's going on, and not requiring people to commit to a 100-day project, but just saying, what do you think you can commit to? So guiding people through that process for 4 weeks. So this 100-day project, have any of you heard of it before? Hashtag 100 project, I think is what the hashtag is. Anyway, you can go to my Facebook page, not my Teal Arbor page, but my personal page, and see an album I created last year of all kinds of clumsy things I would never normally post online, but I thought that part of the requirement of this challenge was to actually post things online, to post evidence or proof that we'd done it, to sort of help hold my own accountability and the accountability of this international community of people doing it. And I heard about it through a group I didn't even know I was a member of on Facebook. I'm not a great social media or a very avid social media person. I kind of use it because I have to, but I found out about this and it was already in progress. That is, everybody else had been doing the challenge for about 2 weeks when I suddenly realized it was a thing. And so I jumped in the very next day without thinking too hard about it, which was both a positive thing and maybe made it a little bit harder for me because I didn't sort of have my head wrapped around what it was. So I decided last year, oh, and let me tell you some other ways people do this. Sometimes, so people will work every day for 100 consecutive days. Some people join groups to find support doing this. Some people do it on their own and, you know, use a hashtag in their social media posts. Some people will actually work on little bits of a single project for the entire 100 days. So maybe a very extensive project, I'm going to make up some projects like a big quilt, or a triptych oil painting series or something like that. So little bits at a time just to fill up the 100 days and to make progress on a project. Other people will make 100 discrete little projects along the way of various sorts. Other people have a theme. And I decided, and there are probably countless other ways to do it. I think as long as you're being creative, it's good. Anything goes. So I decided I'd have a theme. And my theme was going to be spirals. Because I thought, oh, that's a universal form. That's really neat. You know, simple form, right? Even I, who do not consider myself an artist, I do call myself a creative now. That's taken many years to get there. I do call myself a creative, but I don't consider myself an artist. And I work in a variety of media. So I wanted the freedom to explore spirals in all these different media. So I started with outdoor sculptures, nature sculptures, using objects or items from the natural world. And those take, I mean, I do them a lot. So I thought it would be, that's how I mark holidays, how I do rituals as part of my practice as a spiritual ecologist. And so I actually thought that would be a great thing to do for 100 days, except I forgot how long it takes, because there's the going outside and then surveying to see what is around that I might use in the natural environment, especially without destroying living beings, maybe fallen items or items that are on their way out that are drying or something. Or gathering a few of something that's very, very plentiful. And I was spending a lot of time every day working on these sculptures. I was never very satisfied with them. They felt clumsy. And anyway, so I transitioned into all kinds of other media. I tried watercolor, I tried collage. I did some work with photos, always with this theme of spirals in mind. And though I still love the spiral form, I have to say, and we see it everywhere, Nate, right? I have I don't have it at my desk right now. I'm looking over at a moon snail shell I have that has a beautiful spiral that grew as the shell grew. I got kind of tired of making spirals. I made spirals out of every imaginable fiber and texture and natural object and paint and other medium you can imagine. And so at the 50-day mark, actually starting on day 51, I switched to a theme of landscapes, which then eventuated mostly into little watercolor paintings, which I'll show you some images of in a minute. So I didn't want to be spending all of my time doing this 100-day project. I just wanted to try the challenge of doing something creative every day. And something happened early in COVID, starting in 2020, early 2020, when many of us became sheltered in place by mandate of various levels of government. And I really took that opportunity to feed my introverted self and to take a lot of classes, mostly creative, artsy, craftsy kinds of classes, to get more into my own body of work. So I jumped into the process without any forethought at all. I mean, very literally, I heard about it on one day and I marked my calendar and started the next day, counted off 100 days and realized it was going to take me to the end of May. It's like, well, I think I'll be done before Memorial Day, or maybe it was on Memorial Day. I don't remember, but I remember feeling like, oh, this is an expansive time, especially when it's beginning to be springtime. In my neighborhood anyway, and you know, that need to be outside even more than usual is really up that time of year. I felt, though, utterly transformed by the end of the process, though I felt very insecure posting things that I started calling everything a draft because nothing ever felt finished. How could I possibly do a painting for 10 minutes, even though they're all very small, in 3 by 3 inch squares, and put a bow around them, some not very pretty bow that around the actual, not the sculpture projects, but some of the collages and paintings, as a way of kind of honoring that I'd done the process. But I felt so insecure posting these things online that were kind of simple, maybe not up to whatever I thought my standard should be. And I didn't hold myself very compassionately throughout the process. That said, I was transformed by it. It gave me a new way of expressing myself, not to say that now all I do is paint, because I don't. I still have writing that I do for my living. I still work with clients, have all kinds of events, right? We all have full lives. And I see, though, that just by pushing my elbows out, just squeezing out the edges of what I knew to be daily existence, I could create a little bit of room for creativity. Create room for creativity. I said that very intentionally. So it was a little bit of a kind of a busting through, and I'm going to do this, and I'm determined. And sometimes my enthusiasm turns to being very driven. Motivation turns to a drive that maybe is not, you know, my healthiest way of being in the world. But I felt really opened by this process, and it was a challenge. I didn't know even 5 minutes or 10 minutes a day what that would do to the rest of my schedule, both in good ways in terms of feeling a little bit proud of myself, a little bit shy and insecure about the product, but so excited to actually be doing it and to make it the 100 days. I had a big old personal celebration the day I reached day 100. And just felt a huge relief, and consequently spent the day after the 100-day challenge that weekend going through some shelves that have my art supplies and just cleaning everything out, getting rid of some old things, offering some things to people in my community, and really getting organized for what became subsequent phases to this project. I was encouraged to try new forms later in the year. I'll show you one of them in a minute. The process also reinforced what I know about myself, a little bit more about who I am as somebody that is creative. I grew up under the I'll say in the limelight rather than under the shadowed wing of a mom who was an artist, called herself an artist. And while she was raising us, she didn't do much in the way of art. But when we were kind of fledged, she took off and she went internationally on painting tours and had shows. She moved to a very remote little place not far from where I live, another island, and just made a life for herself as an artist for the latter half of her life. And so it was too scary to call myself a painter or a this or a that, anything having to do with visual art during those years. And it's not just because my mother has since passed away several years ago, but also because of who I am becoming as I'll say move deeper into middle age, but as I reach some crucial benchmarks towards seniorhood, I'm really feeling a little stingy about how I spend my time, right? And if I want to, spend longer than usual in a meditation in the morning, I want to be able to do that. If I want to do some painting or make a collage or walk out barefooted in the grass, I want to be able to do that. And to make space for those things in my life. And so these are some of the things I got from the Creative Day Project. I did 2 blog posts, which after the camera is off, after the recording stops, I'll try and remember to put the links to those 2 blog posts in the chat box so that you can find them. But one of them was very specifically about this 100-day challenge, 100-day project challenge. And then so that challenge ended maybe May 29th. And then in the end of June, I went to my first ever nature journaling conference because I always harbored this secret desire to be a nature journaler. But because I am not naturally a fine artist, just by gift, I decided I probably could never do that. But again, one of these things that came out of the 100-day project was, wait a second, if I can do that for 100 days, maybe I can practice drawing birds or flowers. I can certainly, as an avid journaler for decades and decades and decades, and journaling in various ways, including about natural history, I can certainly add some written content. And some days I'll write more and some days I'll draw more. And so I ended up producing this nature journal. It's pretty big size. I didn't realize how big these pages were until I started. So I did a nature journaling conference. I learned a few things. I was super enthused about nature journaling. And so that was the end of June, so a month after the 100-day project. And by July 1st, let me see what the first date is in here. July 1st, I started this nature journal, and I thought, well, I'll do a page a day, and there are about 110 pages in this book, and if I can do a 100-day creative project challenge, certainly I can nature journal for 100 days. And it was really hard, but luckily in the course of things, I ended up taking a couple of bird classes, and they wanted us to sketch, and so I just sketched all over the pages of this journal. And so some days I would have 5 or 6 pages of trying my best at bird sketching. Other days where I wrote about what was happening internally or externally. I talk a lot, and some of you know this already, about what I call the inner outer landscape, something I've been researching, working in, experiencing, and offering via practices and events and activities to other folks. This idea that what is going on in here and what is going on out there are in conversation. They are interconnected. There's a flow going on there if we allow it. And it might be the natural world, it might be circumstances around us, it might be our spiritual lives, but there is something that we can allow that can deepen us, that can deepen who we are, but that also can deepen our expression in the world. So I tried this out. I will show you very quickly. I'll do a screen share and show you a couple of images that came out of the 100-day project. So, oops, what are you seeing? Are you seeing little squares all lined up in 3 rows? Okay, good, that's what I meant to. I even did a funny thing here with a dragonfly that was on kind of some waxy translucent paper. And so this is actually a collage that has a 3D effect. You can see a couple of the landscapes. And I just did versions and versions and versions of these little 3-inch square pieces. So that's one bit. And again, there are not 100 of these little squares because, and you'll see an odd size collage I did at the spring retreat last year that I offered. What's not included are the nature sculptures. So I have photos of those. And then another image I will show you is what I posted somewhere on the blog or Facebook or something, which is this, oops, that's the wrong image, but I'll keep it there for a minute anyway. So that's the nature journal. You can see that there are many, many pages where it's just writing, 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 and where you see what looks like blank pages, that's where the photo of the penciled sketch was too faint to really show up in that tiny form. But you can see I filled the pages, and toward the end, I started getting kind of exuberant about making sure the pages were filled. So I started taking photographs that I'd taken and making them appear on the page. And I will show you one more if I can find it here. This is the one I wanted to show you. This is the 100-day project. This is all 100 pieces. I assume you can see this in its entirety. Let me make it a little smaller. Oops, sorry, I'm showing you the same thing. Hang on, I'm having a little techno difficulty. Where is it? I meant to show you this. Let's see if this shows up. Are you seeing, what are you seeing? Let me close this out. Hopefully you are seeing, yes, this image with the paintbrushes. Okay, so this is it. And you can see these nature sculptures. I started with a snow spiral, and then I spiraled some pine boughs up my steps of my deck and used flowers. And these pieces are little, these round things that you see in this image, and some of the others are actually little photographs I took and printed out and hole punched a certain size. So I made spirals of spirals, on and on. And you can see how, and these are roughly in sequential order, you can see how all of a sudden I transitioned into total landscape land, and very, very simple projects. Each one was just a tiny thing. It might have taken 10 minutes or 15 minutes. But it was a process that, as I said, really opened things up. So here are a few takeaways for me. And as I said, once I stop the recording, I'll drop a couple of links in the chat box so that you can see what I wrote, if you want, after the 100-day project. And then also I wrote something after the when I finished the nature journaling, which I only told a handful of people. I didn't put that on social media or tell people I was doing that. I really needed to do that for myself to see if I could. Though I did, I could help myself a couple of times. And so I told my sisters at some point that I was doing it. And so they were really good at tenderly holding accountability for me. Here are a couple of takeaways. One is 100 days can create an imprint within us for further action. It truly can. I mean, you hear all the time, right? Oh, I'm going to do this crash diet for 28 days, or I'm going to, do X exercise or workout for, such or other number of weeks, or until I lose X number of pounds, or until I can lift whatever weight, right? We hear about this all the time. They're often very numerical. But there is something about creating a habit. And for me, the letting go, shedding expectations about how perfect something should be. And what is perfection in art anyway, right? It really is, I think, for me, it was about a personal aesthetic. And if I didn't meet the aesthetic, at least I gave it a shot. And I took a lot of, I often talk about when people haven't created for a long time, because I do creative coaching with folks. I talk about how when we haven't done something creative or a certain form, indulged in a certain creative form for a period of time, we get a little, it's like, I don't want to start naming foods that go in the fridge that get a crust, but things that end up getting a crust across the top or a layer of something. And I feel like when we haven't created for a while, when we start to work again, the pieces might not be that good juicy thing underneath the savory stew. They might be the layer of gooey fatty stuff across the top, and we need to scrape through that. We need to create anyway. And so having that imprint, that stamp of, oh, I did this, I really gave it a shot, it really got that part of me awakened. And in fact, I have another friend who's going to be doing this 100-day project with me. She's never done anything before, so I'm very excited to see how she does with it. But we will also hold each other accountable. Allowing what comes in the process is essential, as it turns out. I can ache and yearn and push and shove my way to what I think is an outcome that is the right, best, most beautiful, whatever superlative you want to use outcome, but truly just allowing in the moment what's there to be there and to be okay with that, I think is so, so important. And also, keeping the project simple for me was really important in terms of allowing the space for elaborate creativity. So the simpler the idea I had, I'm going to make a landscape with two parts. There's going to be water down below and sky up above. So that didn't take a lot of skill to kind of make a, jagged line across the center as a horizon line. And then it gave me the space, though, and the freedom to get as intricate as I wanted with the amount of time I had in terms of what was in that sky or what was in that water. And it allowed me to use some tools and media that I didn't know much about, haven't used for a long time, don't feel very skilled using, but to see that there are ways to work with a variety of materials in a way that's satisfying. So I'm going to turn off the recording.